Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Crowd Terror Podcast. Today we have the NFC East, or as many like to call it, the NFC Least, which is probably more accurate. But we go to the NFC East. We have first the Dallas Cowboys. Obviously, we're doing the NFC, or not NFC, well, yeah, the NFC, but we're doing the NFL offseason reviews. I'm on my third to last division. Only have two left after this. I'll get those. I'll record those videos next week. So today we have the NFC East. We have the Dallas Cowboys up first. So we'll go over their free agent signings and trades. Of course, they trade away Amari Cooper, so no longer with the team is Amari Cooper, but they re-signed Michael Gallup to a huge 5-year deal. I mean, it's about $10 million a year, but still 5 years, quite the commitment. Also re-signed, or not re-signed, also signed James Washington. Dalton Schultz got the franchise tag, so he returns to Dallas. And then there's Jeremy Sprinkle, who cares? Demarcus Lawrence gets a big deal with the Dallas Cowboys to join their solid defense, along with Carlos Watkins, both Dante Fowler and Anthony Barr signed with the Dallas Cowboys, along with re-sign for Leighton Vander Esch. I mean, that creates a lethal linebacking core of Leighton Vander Esch, Anthony Barr, and Micah Parsons, along with Dante Fowler too. So I mean that's a lethal crew right there. And then you have safeties as Malik Hooker re-signing, and then Jaron Curse, all good players. And then you got, who cares about the punter and the long snapper, but they have re-signed as well. In terms of the draft itself, Dallas did not necessarily wow anyone, especially with their first round pick and Tyler Smith, a tackle from Tulsa. Nobody likes that pick. Sam Will. They didn't really do many trades in the draft either. They kind of just had the picks that they had before. They were very uneventful. They had a 24th pick in each round. So they took Tyler Smith, tackle out of Tulsa, with the first round pick. Second round pick, they took Sam Williams, an edge rusher out of Ole Miss. Jaylen Tobert is someone that everyone's been talking about in the preseason for the Dallas Cowboys. Wide receiver out of South Alabama, along with Jake Ferguson, tight end from Wisconsin. He's also on there, and he got a couple other picks as well, all fifth round picks I've never really heard of. So Jaylen Tobert's really been the one who's been catching everybody's eye and has been getting all the talk lately. Good player. He's been doing very well for Dallas, which is obviously something that you want to see out of him. But I think for the Cowboys, this is definitely going to be something to see. As Dallas is a team that, Dallas is a team that if you don't play even close to like perfectly, Dallas fans can be very toxic. If it doesn't go their way, they get pissed. I mean, obviously Dallas also had that miserable mishap against San Fran. I will never understand that. Not that I liked either team. I didn't want either one to win because I'm not a Cowboys fan, and I can't really stand the Niners either. But I don't know what Dallas was doing there. Obviously, Kellen Moore is their offensive coordinator, so I think that should tell you enough about what their coaching staff is. I mean, you're still hiring Mike McCarthy. You left him as your head coach, but you did not get rid of Kellen Moore. At least I think Kellen Moore is still their offensive coordinator. Don't know why they'd even consider having that guy after he was with the Lions and it was absolutely terrible. I don't even remember if I think it was like the third stringer. He came in a game and we're like, oh god, this guy's awful. But um, now as the Dallas offensive coordinator, yeah, no, this Dallas team is got some players, but their coaching needs some work. Their coaching definitely needs work, and yeah, it might be a long year for Dallas if they can't get their coaching right. Next, we head to their arch nemesis, the New York Giants. The Giants have had a lot of strugglesome seasons. Let's just say that it has not gone well for them. It just hasn't. So we'll go on to the free agent signings for the New England Patriots. Excuse me. Their first signing was Tyrod Taylor, 2-year deal worth $11 million. Of course, kind of like I was talking about earlier with the Miami Dolphins. Tyrod Taylor coming in to push Daniel Jones to the limit. They declined, I think, Daniel Jones's fifth-year option. So this is a prove it year for Daniel Jones. If he doesn't prove it, well, Tyrod Taylor becomes the guy next year. Possibly, if they don't draft themselves a different quarterback this year. And if Daniel Jones does prove himself, well, you sign him back. Tyrod Taylor is the fallback option. Good signing there by the Giants. I also would get Matt Breida to come in, Richie James, Ricky Seals-Jones, decent player. Good offense. Really, they needed a new offensive line. This team was not very active in the free agent side of things. They really were active in the draft side of things, but Tyrod Taylor is probably the only big signing that they've made, other than I guess the offensive lineman there, which was obviously a huge problem for the New York Giants as they needed offensive linemen. But we go to the draft, of which their first pick was a bit of a surprise as Kivon Thibodeaux fell to the New York Giants. They needed edge rushers, and, well, Thibodeaux's a pretty perfect pick for that. A lot of people are concerned about Thibodeaux's character. Of course, people were also concerned about Micah Parsons' character. So I'm not so sure that I think a lot of. I mean, there's obviously a lot of people just coming to the NFL with an attitude, and Thibodeaux is one of those guys. But talent, he's got insane amounts of talent, and so if that talent pans out, they're going to have a fantastic defensive end. For seven, and then they had number 7 pick as well, as they got that from the Chicago Bears as part of the Justin Fields trade. And they got Evan Neal, which is a tackle out of Alabama. Obviously, they needed offensive line. Well, they got offensive line right there. Desperately needed that. And then in the second round, they had an interesting draft pick of Wan'Dale Robinson, wide receiver from Kentucky. Smaller guy, but played well for Kentucky at wide receiver. But really, this just creates a gigantic log jam at wide receiver as the Giants. They already have, of course, Kenny Galladay, of which has not really worked out for the Giants, along with Sterling Shepard. They drafted Kadarius Toney last year, and, well, he wants to be traded. They also have Darius Slayton, of which, well, I think he wants to get traded too. And they already also have, I think, another receiver in there who's a decent player. Now they're drafting Wan'Dale Robinson. So, you got so many receivers in there. It's like, well, you got to trade one of them now. Obviously, they can't all fit on your roster. So, which one's going to go? Is it going to be Kadarius Toney? Is it going to be Slayton? And I don't think it's going to be Galladay, and I don't really see it being Shepard either. So, who's it going to be? So we'll see what they do with that. And then they have a guard out of North Carolina, corner from LSU, Daniel Bellinger, tight end out of San Diego State. And they had a lot of draft picks, and a lot of people think they nailed it, and they really did. They had a good draft, and we'll see how all their draft picks end up panning out. But this is a good draft by the Giants. They did very well. And they absolutely killed the draft, obviously, with having Thibodeaux and Neal. And, I mean, still, Wan'Dale Robinson's a good receiver. It's just where on earth is he going to fit on the team. So now we're done with the Giants. We move on to the Philadelphia Eagles, who, honestly, I would not be surprised. I think kind of like kind of like the South divisions I was doing earlier. I think that essentially the NFC East is either the Eagles or the Giants. I think it's going to be one of those two winning the division. It's just a matter of which one wins it. And so the Eagles re-signed Boston Scott, running back out, running back. I mean, he's a depth piece for Miles Sanders. Of course, really, I don't think they're going to be running with Miles Sanders all that much. But then the big one was getting Zach was not Zach was getting AJ Brown in a trade with the Tennessee Titans, giving them a first and third rounder this year. And obviously they signed him for a big deal, the 4-year, $100 million deal. Well, that's a fantastic receiver, and to get him in a trade to improve that receiving core, now you have AJ Brown with Devonta Smith. That's a great one too. And no one cares about Jalen Reagor anymore, but that's just a really good one too of having Brown and Devonta Smith in that receiving core to help out Jalen Hurts at QB, of which everyone's kind of either love or hate relationship there with him. Zach Pascal, of course, also signs with them with Greg Ward. Jason Kelsey comes back, and they have some good signings on the defensive end too, with especially Hassan Reddick coming in. Reddick coming in. James Bradbury, decent player. Anthony Harris, another good player. So they have some nice signings, and really, where I think Philadelphia had a fantastic job is the draft, of which their first pick was probably one of the craziest players we've seen in a long time, and that's Jordan Davis, defensive tackle out of Georgia. This guy is massive. I mean, I think he's like 6'5" or 6. He's like 6'6", 340 pounds, and the guy runs like a 4.8. It's absolutely insane. Now, there's been a lot of questions about his stamina and like how long he can last actually running that fast, but Jordan Davis is an unbelievable talent, and that's an absolutely nasty player to put on that defensive side of the football. Not to mention, they drafted one of his defensive mates later, of which everyone expected to be long gone by that point, and that's Nakobe Dean, fantastic linebacker, also out of Georgia. Obviously, they made trades with the Saints, and I think they even traded with somebody else. They traded up, I think, to get Jordan Davis, but Nakobe Dean just fell right to him in the third round. That's a fantastic draft pick for him. They drafted a center from Nebraska, Cam Jurgens, with their second round pick, and then Kyron Johnson and Grant, tight end from SMU. But this Philadelphia team, just between Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean, absolutely destroyed the NFL draft. I mean, outstanding job getting both of those guys, especially Nakobe Dean the third. That was insane. But Jordan Davis is a fantastic player as well. And getting both of those guys, let alone just getting AJ Brown as part of the draft too, getting him traded to you is fantastic. Then you got Jalen Hurts throwing to Devonta Smith already, and now you add AJ Brown into that mix, and you have a lethal duo along with Miles Sanders, of which no Philly fan really likes. But this is a good Eagles team, and it's either them or Dallas for the division. Of course, Philly snuck into the wild card last year. I could certainly see them sneaking into the wild card this year, if not just simply winning the division, period. But this is a good Eagles team. I would watch out for these guys. They should have a good season. Next is the Washington Commanders, everyone's favorite team here. It's been a mess, to say the least, for Washington. It has been a massive mess between all the sexual assault problems and just the massive issues with their owner. Everyone's favorite owner, of course, Dan Snyder. Couldn't come up with his name there for a second, but everyone's favorite guy there. And so it's been just not good for Washington people. Of course, also their stadium is a literal dump. Their franchise is in a gigantic mess, and so anything that can go right for Washington would greatly be appreciated. And so the Washington Commanders decided to make a trade for their quarterback, as the Colts had enough of Carson Wentz, and the Commanders said, "Hey, we'll take him." So they traded for Carson Wentz, giving them 2 third-round picks, one of those being conditional, which could become a second rounder if Wentz plays however many snaps. They also swapped second round picks this year, along with Washington giving Indy their late seventh round pick. And so we have big other signings here with J.D. McKissick being re-signed for Washington. Terry McLaurin getting a huge contract extension. Cam Sims re-signs along with some offensive linemen. Andrew Norwell signing on with Try Turner. They had a decent offseason in terms of free agency. The draft they did okay, not nearly as good as everybody else though. As their first pick was Jahan Dotson with the 16th pick in the first round, wide receiver out of Penn State. A lot of people were kind of surprised by that pick. I mean, he's a good wide receiver. Don't get me wrong; the guy is fantastic. I've watched him myself playing as a Penn State Nittany Lion. I watched him all the time in the Big Ten. Fantastic receiver. Was very impressed by his talent. But for Washington, I mean, a lot of people were kind of surprised. I mean, because Jahan Dotson was more expected to be a late first round pick or maybe even a second round pick. And so for him to go at 16th, middle of the first round, was a bit high, it seemed, to a lot of people. With the second round pick, the Commanders took Phidarian Mathis, defensive tackle out of Alabama. Their next pick was also from Alabama, being Brian Robinson, a running back from Alabama. He was expected to kind of factor in for the team this year, make a play for Antonio to make a play and maybe get some insert himself into the offense a little bit with Brian Robinson, maybe cutting into Antonio Gibson's playing time, but he has actually been shot in a robbery, I believe, in a robbery. I don't remember what all the details are. All I know is he's in the hospital due to being shot during a attempted robbery. So thoughts and prayers for Brian Robinson. I know that he is. It's been said that he's in the hospital and he is now stable. But it's not life threatening as far as I remember. But obviously, not a good situation there for Mr. Robinson. Then they also have Percy Butler, safety from Louisiana. Sam Howell fell to them as the first pick in the fifth round, which was kind of surprising. Of course, probably hoping that Sam Howell turns into a good player for them after he sits for like a year or maybe even two. And then they have Cole Turner, wrong Chris Paul there, and then Christian Holmes. But this is okay Washington team, but I think the problem for Washington is going to be the massive amount of just off-season problems that they've had. I mean, they changed the name now, so now that that's out of the way, they have that problem finally fixed. But now their stadium is a dump, and Dan Snyder is a terrible team owner. So I mean, their franchise is still a complete mess, and no one wants to go to FedEx Stadium because of how bad the stadium actually is. No one wants to watch really Washington because they're not really a great team, and nobody really no one really no one wants to go to the stadium. No one really likes Dan Snyder. No one, it's just they're not. It's not a good situation for Washington. I think there's too much stuff going on off the field right now for the Commanders. I think they're going to have a hard time finding ways to win games this year. I mean, the NFC East is not a great division by any means, but Washington still isn't the greatest team on planet Earth. We've already seen Carson Wentz struggle with the Colts. I mean, he had a good team, he had a good offensive line, he's still completely flopped. So maybe he does better with Washington, but he hasn't really looked the same ever since the torn ACL with the Philadelphia Eagles. So will it change now? Who knows? He gets to play his old team twice in a row, 2 times this year. So who knows? Maybe he gets some revenge. But I just Washington's team is in too much of a shambles, and their franchise is so depleted right now that it might take a while for them to recover, let alone even look like the same team before that. So that's all I got for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did finish it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Next should be tonight. We'll be doing week 1 picks for college football. Me, probably Serbensky, and who knows, maybe somebody else too. But that's it for me. Until next time, adios, everyone.